Good evening, everybody, and welcome. It's Sunday night. It's SKR, Season 7, Round 3. That's right, Round 3. And we're in Albert Park. Just the short quali session. So everyone has 18 minutes. And surely we'll see some action out on track pretty quickly. There's already a Ferrari on its way. See a lot of people already joining in the stream. Welcome to everybody. Welcome back. I think this was the first car out of the pits, the Alpine Disguise. This is Disguise on an outlap trying to get some temperature into his tires. In a short quali session, in an 18-minute session, you don't really see the guys sandbag too much. You tend to see it in the full quali session. Guys doing just enough to go through, not showing their full potential. In the short quali session, sort of have to get on with it. This is the Alfa Romeo, one of them at least. The other Pantry Star on an outlap. This one here, Harsh Cartoon on an outlap, looking for his first time lap of the evening, trying to give himself some space on the circuit. You can see a car there ahead of him. Doesn't want to run into that car on his quick lap. But for everybody to make sure they can find themselves a space on that circuit. Nobody needs to give you way when they're on a fast lap of their own, so you really need to make sure you have space, and that's what the Alfa Romeo driver was doing. The Alpine going over the grass, using a little bit more of the racetrack than he'd like. First car out of the pits, second car out of the pits, I believe it was Skull. This is the Ferrari here. I've asked you guys for a pole prediction. Still waiting for a pole prediction. Let me know down in the comments what sort of lap times we should expect for pole position. Still waiting for those benchmark laps. Maybe some waiting to see the benchmarks before they put in a prediction. Well, there is the first time. It's a 120.1. And that sets the time for everyone else in the session, the time to beat. Harsh Cartoon over the line, 118.7. Not only is that quicker, that's a lot quicker. Goes P1 for the time being. Still a lot of drivers to do lap times. As you can see, a few of them are actually coming back into the pits without setting those lap times. So I think invalidated laps, backing out of laps, making mistakes, all possibilities. SAFRL goes quickest, 118.0, and these are the sort of times we're seeing early on. I think we'll definitely be into the 117s before this is over. Got a Haas on an outlap. Louis looking for his first time lap of the evening. The order so far: SAFRL, Andre, and then the two Alfa Romeo, Pantry Star, Harsh Cartoon, P4, P5. We've got Venom in P5. Just the 5 drivers of the 14 have set a lap time. Mr. M now has set the lap time of his own. I said he'd be in the 117 before this is over. A little sooner than I predicted. Mr. M goes up into provisional pole. 1:17.9. It's not a comfortable time, just a 10th quicker than Afrodox. And Louis looking for that first time lap. Goes over the line, it's good enough for P7, it's a 1:19.0. We saw him get really close to another car there at the end of his lap. Wonder if that was just enough to put him off slightly. So only one car in the 117s. Afrodox not far off, 118 flat. And here, all of these cars you see with 100% in the middle of your screen means they're winding up for a quick one. This Divan is going to be one of 4 cars. Look at that, there's a tyre on the exit. See, that doesn't cause any problem. It's as good as a ghost. Big Rhino in the second half. Still no lap time on an outlap. Has his Top Gun on an outlap. All of these drivers looking for their first timed laps of the evening. Remember, if you don't set a lap time, you're going to start from the rear of the field. I want to do that here in Albert Park. It'll be a tricky circuit. Can be a tricky turn 1, turn 2 combination, especially at the start of the race. Skies has retired from the session, so he will be starting from P14 unless anybody gets disqualified. Then they will start behind him. Quickest man in the field sits in the pits. Not anymore. Quickest man in the field has just gone over the line. 1:17.8. Skull puts the Ferrari not only on the front row, but in P1. Look at the gap there between P1, P2. Just 0.07 of a second covering the front row. The AlphaTauri of Andre qualified a little higher, now all of a sudden being demoted all the way down to P4. Be on a quick lap himself. Doesn't appear to be the case. Those are used soft tyres, so he will surely be coming into the pits. Yes, there we go. Stays right, comes into the pits. He will be putting on a fresh set and having one more go at it. And if he can do those sort of lap times on used tyres, then surely he's got a little bit more in his pocket. Just the Rem on an outlap. Fantastic lap time from Skull, 1:17.8. Mr. Rem would have been pretty happy with that 17.9 not so long ago. It's been beaten. Now he's got to go out there, he's got to defend it. Skull is in the pits, but I'm sure we'll see him frantically come out, have another run. Remember, Mr. M just needs to find 700ths of a second to take that away from him. He is busy winding up for another quick lap. See what the Red Bull driver has to offer. Alfa Romeo, Harsh Cartoon, currently heading the second row, P3, Aphrodite, who at one stage was on provisional pole, now down in P4, and no longer. 117.7, the lap times keep on coming down. The front row is still split by a tenth of a second. The only thing that's changed is the names of the drivers. Really close, just 4/10 of a second cover the top 4 drivers. And if you want to start on those front 2 rows, you need to be out on track right now. Can't spend any more time in the pits. Chums out on circuit. Andre also on an outlap. Everyone looking for an improvement. Mr. M currently P3, 117.9. I think this is a quick lap he's on. Let's see if he's able to find an improvement here in sector 2. A little bit slower. A little bit off his best in sector 2. Mr. M's going to have to find more in the latter stages of the lap if he's going to be able to find an improvement. Aphrodite, pole sitter, returns to the pits. This is the second Red Bull, currently down in P10. Aphrodite Skull, and now Pantry Star. How did he get himself? Those times were so close, and somehow he was able to slot his way in between there. Look at that difference between P2, P3. I think that's 4.5. I'm not even sure how to print. What, 45 thousandths or 4.5 hundredths, something like that. Extremely close lap times at the front. Who would have thought an 18.0 would be good enough for P7? So nobody's able to sit in the pits in the later stages. Nobody is dominating. Nobody has a comfortable gap. Everybody's going to have to push right to the end of this short quali session. Remember, when it started, we had just 18 minutes for everyone to get around. A lot of that time has gone. Just under 5 minutes to go. Guys out on track now should theoretically be able to get to the pits and maybe squeeze out another run. But you'd have to be very quick about it. Here's Andre returning to the pits. Currently in P8, 118.3. The second Red Bull, Gotzi, also heads into the pits. This is Top Gun on an outlap. He's got a Haas weaving behind him. That's Rhino, also on an outlap. Everyone does have a lap time. Venom doesn't have a lap time he wants. It's a 120.1. We'll be looking for improvement as the clock ticks down. Now you see a lot of cars in the pits. 2 of those cars slightly out of sync. Skull and Harsh Cartoon, they've gone early. They've gone earlier than everybody else. They're on their outlaps. So they're going to cross that start finish line first. We're going to see their attempt at an improvement, and then a lap later majority of the field is going to have an opportunity to improve their lap. We have a Red Bull off circuit, just getting out of the way. Harsh Cartoon, this will be his final run of the evening, currently in P7. That would have been an impressive lap time on any other night, 118.0, but we're down into the mid 117s. So Skull on an outlap. Top Gun 117.8. Look at these times at the front. 17.7, followed by 3 17.8s, 2 17.9s, and then 2 18 flats. It's ridiculous. 3/10 of a second covering what I believe is 8 cars. What do you guys think will be that final pole position time? How much more will it come down? Top Gun 17.8. It's in the final sector. All of these drivers now on their final attempt. Rhino, he's remained in the pits. I think it'll be too late for him to get around now. Lots of drivers out on circuit. One of those drivers, the Haas driver, Divan, the other Haas down in P11. So he is the lead driver of his team tonight, doing a good job. He's in the 117s, and he's only in P6. Said it earlier, any other night would have been a decent lap time. Tonight, it's not quite enough. Paradox. Remember, this is the man on provisional pole. Quickest man on the circuit. Skull in P2 has retired from the session, so we won't see any challenge from the Ferrari man. Top Gun in the pits, so he's not going to be coming out either. This will be Aphrodite versus Pantry Star. Ooh, and Divan having a rough one. If this was a real quali session, that would have been it for everyone, because that would have been a red flag. But Divan going out of the session in dramatic form as he goes P3, then crashes his car. Now Pantry Star giving it everything. Mr. Ram goes into provisional pole 17.5. We do have a mid 17. Pantry Star returns to the pits. Aphrodite takes it back. And I was impressed. Well, I was impressed with the mid 17. And a few moments later, 1 minute 16.9. Six-tenths of a second, cover your front row. And I don't think anyone could have predicted that throughout the session. Times were so close. And then right at the end, Aphrodite put together the perfect lap and showed the field what he really had. That was a very, very impressive lap time. Obviously Mr. M looked like he had taken it a 17.5, an advantage of 0.3 of a second. Looked pretty comfortable. And then Afrodox, just moments later, is 16.9. What do you guys make of that in the comment section? 16.9. There are your official results. Afrodox leading the way, taking pole position, 116.9, 0.6 of a second ahead of Mr. M in P2. Then we have Chums, Sculp, those are 3 and 4, Divan and Pantry Star, Top Gun, Harsh Cartoon, Andre and Louis making up the top 10. Not in the top 10, going to have a difficult evening. Rhino, Gotti, Venom and Disguise. We're back, and now it's time for where you get your points. Qualifying's all good. We know it doesn't really always mean everything. I've seen many times guys starting from the back of the field, coming through the field to take podiums and even win races, and we've seen many times guys starting from pole position, already down in the midfield after turn 1. So this is what it really comes down to. It comes down to the race. A little bit of back and forth banter in the comment section. What a qualifying session that was. It was close throughout, looked really exciting, and then right at the end, 0.6 of a second advantage. Very impressive. Now drivers will be obviously doing their final preparations, strategies. What are they going to do? What tire will they start on? Are they anticipating safety cars? Still so much that can happen. In this game, no matter how long you've played it, it can always throw a surprise at you. At Magosi, you're in the comment section, you can back me up. When was it? Was it 2 weeks ago? We had a race that started in the rain, and we technically started under safety car. Had a normal start basically, but before we could get to turn 1, we were told to slow down and met the safety car on the exit of the pit lane. I don't think we've ever had a safety car start in the rain. Obviously the Albert Park circuit, venue of the Australian Grand Prix since 1996. Yes, 1996. The last Grand Prix in Adelaide was in 1995, the season finale of the 1995 season. Very tight technical circuit, and the closest thing you could compare to Monaco on the calendar for its time. It was then replaced with Australia and went from one extreme to the other. It went from being the season finale to being the season opener, which means Australia had to organise 2 Grand Prix in a matter of a few months. 5 red lights, and we're underway. It's going to be Mercedes versus Red Bull into turn 1, and how many times have we seen that? We've got a McLaren in P3 looking for a way through, and well, Aphrodite clearing at the front. Look at that gap already, 7/10 of a second. Then Mr. Rem in P2. Got the McLaren just behind him. Skull in P4. Divan P5. Panpistar, Top Gun, Harsh Cartoon, Louis, Venom. That's your top 10. There's your possible pit strategies. 1 stop or a 2 stop. Don't know how that second one works. Second one looks like it would be a bit of a waste of a hard compound. Not sure how this game works things out sometimes. Aphrodite leads the way, the gap at the front, 9/10 of a second, and that is crucial. Mr. M, the Red Bull, can't let that gap extend beyond a second before DRS becomes active in this race, otherwise he's going to give himself a much more difficult job of staying with that Mercedes. Chums in P3, Skull P4, Divan P5, those cars all still very close together. This is the Ferrari of Skull. Go on board with him, give you a driver's view of what the early stages of the race looks like. You look in your mirrors, you see other cars, you look in front of you, you see a stream of cars. Great time to make up positions. It's also a very easy time to get damage. We were thinking Skull was getting ready to challenge the McLaren, but Skull is coming under pressure. And the equally Ferrari powered Haas of Divan goes around. Ooh, and that looked messy. We've got a caution. Just saw a McLaren spinning across the track. We've got a caution, and I think it's going to just stay at a caution. Seems that way. Let's see, where is that McLaren? Is he on his way? Does he have damage? Well, he is on his way. He seems to have his end plates. So Chums has got to start all over again. Big job for him tonight. Currently in P14. That was great. I couldn't find the tyre screen. So Aphrodite, Mr. Rem, P1, P2. They share a strategy as well, both on the hard tyre. Then P3, P4, both on the mediums, Divan and Skull. And then Top Gun, the only man out on circuit to go for the soft compound at the start of the race. Oh, that'll obviously help him in the early stages of the race. He's going to have superior grip, he's going to have superior traction. Those tyres will be the first tyres in the entire field to fall off, which means he's going to have to pit first. And if this field hasn't been able to spread out. If it stays this close and you're the first one to pit, well, you come out at the rear of the field. Afrodox leads the way, 1.9 seconds is the gap. Then Mr. Rem in P2, and it's a lonely P2. Then another 1.5 seconds down to P3. So P1, P2 in a world of their own. Then Skull, P3, not comfortable at all. He's coming under all sorts of pressure. He's got a whole queue of cars behind him that want that podium position. So Skull defends from Divan, Top Gun, Pantry Star and his teammate Harsh Cartoon, all in that DRS train, all looking for a way by. It looks like just for now Skull is shaking them off just a little bit. He's got a bit of breathing space, but for how much longer? Remember, he needs to break out of DRS, otherwise he's going to continue to just tow those cars behind him. At the front, Afrodox, as comfortable as can be, 2.6 seconds. Mr. Rem, not quite able to stay with the Mercedes, but he's comfortably in P2. Let's drop this man off. Skull 1.2 seconds adrift. And look at that, he's coming under pressure. The Williams has got him before turn 1. And Top Gun, I spoke about him moments ago. He's the only one on the soft tyre, but Skull has come back at the Williams, and the Williams comes back at the Ferrari. So for the time being, Top Gun goes P3. But remember, he's got the advantage of the soft tyre. He should be quicker than everybody else at this stage. But as those tyres begin to age, we're going to see those lap times coming down. And at the beginning they'll be coming down slowly, and then suddenly they'll drop off terribly. You've got to make sure you pit at the right time. You don't want to spend any time on track after your tyres have dropped off, so you can lose multiple seconds in a pit stop. And if you're a driver, you know how difficult it is to make up multiple seconds. It's really easy to lose them. Pantry Star, P4. He is now the next challenger for the podium spot. He has also cleared Skull. Skull held on to that podium heroically for how long, but I think his battery may have just run out. Top Gun took it not so long ago, and just a lap later, Pantry Star says, "I'll take that." Pantry Star steps up onto the podium, but will he be able to hold on to it? Because we know there's a DRS train behind him. These drivers for now just trading places, and as their batteries run out, they basically fall further back. We've got a Haas going sideways. That's a big one. Haas goes sideways into... You didn't actually see the back end of that incident, but there we go. There is the Haas. Seems like he's going to be able to get underway. So it looked a lot worse than it was. There we go. There's the Haas. Does he have his end plates? Yes, he does. So Divan will be able to get on with it. His approach to the race will be somewhat different now. He was one of the contenders at the front. Now he finds himself at the rear of the field with a lot of catching up to do and a lot of free air, with no rivals in sight. Afrodox leads the way. Mr. Rem, Pantry Star, P3. Pantry Star has been able to check out, so now those top 3 positions all in their own race. That DRS train we saw earlier, it has shortened, and now it's no longer for P3, it's for P4. Leader of that DRS train is Top Gun. It's followed by Skull, Harsh Platoon and Venom. All of those cars behind him on harder compounds than he is. So maybe this is signs that those softs have passed their peak. Might not have fallen off, but they're no longer at their best. Medium runners now coming back at Top Gun, and successfully Skull gets past the Williams. The next man looking to get past the Williams is this one here. Didn't have a very successful qualifying session, started from the rear of the field. But since then a lot has happened, and he's been able to bring his Aston Martin up into P6. It's going to be on the back of the Williams. Where is the Williams? There we go. It's a little bit too far behind this time around. That's the problem with being in a DRS train. It works against you, nullifies your own DRS because everyone around you has the same advantage. So the only one that can really constantly attack is the second man in the DRS train, because the leader doesn't have DRS. So it's the most difficult place to be in a DRS train, at the front. This man's got no problem with being at the front. 5.9 seconds, then Mr. M P2, Pantry Star P3, Skull P4. Venom is in the top 5. He has got past Top Gun. Now Top Gun losing all sorts of time. Look at that. It's now coming under pressure from the second Alfa Romeo Harsh Cartoon. Just losing a lot of time, and I wonder when we're going to see this Williams pull into the pits. Will it be now? No, it won't. He's staying out for a few more laps. Something not going right in the cockpit of the Williams, either with the driver or with the tires. Something not going according to plan, because that Williams is falling down the field a little earlier than he probably anticipated. 8 laps on those softs, so it must be pretty close to pole territory. Top Gun is on the back of the Aston Martin, so another Aston Martin has got past him. He's down into P7. At least he's got a little bit of respite now. Next car, 4 seconds down the road. That is Louis. Now Louis's got a set of hards. Let's keep our eyes on that gap. It's 3.9 seconds, and if we do see that gap come down considerably, well, then it means the softs are no longer in play. Remember Divan, he had a big one. Didn't look like he had damage, but it appears like he has come into the pits, because he's now 22 seconds adrift from the rest of the field. Remember, everyone else will pit. Takes about 20 seconds to do a pit stop around here. So that will bring him right back up to the rear of the field. Then his next task will be to try and come through that field. Harsh Cartoon is on the back of the Aston Martin. And the Aston Martin is on the back of the Ferrari. Skull, Venom, Harsh Cartoon, followed by Top Gun in P7, but unfortunately for him, he's just starting to go a little bit backwards. Louis not able to make up any time. We said let's watch that gap, 3.9 seconds. It's now almost up to 5. So Louis may have made a mistake somewhere. Should have the advantage at this stage. How much longer till we'll see Top Gun come into the pits? Is he waiting for a safety car? Is he waiting for something to happen? Lap 10 of 29, Divan becomes the third man in the column with a penalty. And Skull, P4, held on to the podium for quite some time. Formed a long DRS train. And then once Pantry was able to get past the Ferrari, there was no looking back. He actually dropped the Ferrari pretty quickly. Skull starting to come under pressure now from the Alfa Romeo. Gaps were a little bit spacier not so long ago, but now things getting closer. The Aston Martin just losing it there upon accelerating, just right on the outside curb. Car didn't like it, squirmed a little bit, and that's allowed the Alfa Romeo to come right up on the back of the Aston Martin. Gonna see more and more racing like this. Harsh Cartoon almost looks like he's sitting at a safe distance while those two go side by side, so he can be ready if any action happens to capitalize on it. Top Gun P7 still going backwards. Surely we'll see him come in shortly. Gap at the front almost 10 seconds. We said P2 was pretty comfortable. He was pretty comfortable. Now Mr. M starting to come under pressure. 9/10 of a second the gap between him and Pantry Star. That means Pantry Star is going to have DRS this time around, and that's going to assist him in closing this gap even quicker. Obviously an extra DRS zone here in Australia ever since the Small Australia redesign. Personally, I think it made the track a lot better. With that many DRS zones, it's going to be difficult for Mr. M to keep Pantry Star behind. Remember, this is not a battle due to tyres. They're on the same compound, same age of tyres, same strategy for all top 4 drivers. It's quite interesting that the top 4 drivers are all in the hardest compound, which should be the slowest compound. So we could see those cars finishing off on the softer compound and just wiping the rest of the field. What happens when these guys have got all the grip in the world? Skull P5, Harsh Cartoon P6, Top Gun P7, Louis in the second Ferrari. He's got a DRS train of his own behind him to worry about. It's Andre and Rhino, P9 and 10. Outside the top 10, Disguise, Chums, Gotzi and Divan, who's on a recovery drive. Don't forget, all these cars ahead of him, they are going to pit. When he started this recovery drive, that gap was 22 seconds. It's now 12 seconds. So when everybody does pit, he will come out somewhere in the midfield, lower end of the midfield, but nonetheless, so he will have an opportunity to come back through this field. Just his tyres are going to be a little bit out of sync with everyone else. Aphrodoc's out front, Pantry Star P2, Mr. M in P3. Pantry Star was able to get past. Now Mr. M needs to stay within DRS if he wants to come back at him. The moment DRS escapes him, Pantry Star will be on his way. Will he be able to do anything about that gap of 11.2 seconds? Will Aphrodox continue at the front? Skull, Ferrari power versus Ferrari. No, that's not. I thought it was a Haas. So Ferrari versus Aston Martin. Skull looking to get himself back up through the field. Remember, he was in P3 for quite a long time. That soft runner has now popped off into the pits. So everyone in the field, either on a set of hards or on a set of mediums. Your 4 top drivers, 4 of the top 5 on the hard compound. So they're going to be going longer into this race. And because we haven't had any safety cars in the first stint of the race, going on the hard tyre and going deep into the race has really worked out for all of those drivers. What happens when you're trying to build up a gap and a safety car comes out every couple of laps? It eliminates that, but just a caution popping up on the screen, giving me a reminder not to talk about safety cars, because the game will punish us. Did you see that, Atmagozi? I went on to the safety car topic and all of a sudden the game literally warned me. Caution. Venom now leads the race, but this should be brief. He's on a set of 14 lap old hards. He's going to put a lap later than Aphrodite. Aphrodite was able to come into the pits and regain second place, and annoyingly for him, he's come out just a couple of tenths behind the Aston Martin. Would have loved to have come out a few tenths ahead of him and just got on with it. But now Aphrodite clears that Aston Martin, and he's going to be able to get on with his race, get on with things, and he's already found half a second. Louis, another man who did not pit. Look at that, he's losing positions. This is an AlphaTauri. What a pass this would be around the outside. Brave pass. Louis gives him space. And Andre into P3, but don't get too excited. Two of the cars in the top three need to do their pit stops. Venom is in the pits. Andre stays out for another lap. It's going to be 15 laps now on those mediums. Venom into the pits, comes out of the pits. What is that? P7. Looks like he's going to hold on to P7. Comes out just ahead of Top Gun. Louis now the only man in the top 8, still on his hard compounds. 15 laps old. Everybody else that had the same strategy has since pit and taken the medium tyre. He's decided to hold on to that hard for a few more laps. Maybe he knows something everyone else doesn't, or maybe he's just rolling the dice. Aphrodite, Andre, that gap's 16 seconds. Andre yet to pit. Louis P3 yet to pit. So technically that would mean that Pantry Star is your provisional P2 man, and he is 18 seconds adrift from the leader. So when these two do eventually pit, and I'm sure Pantry Star is hoping it's soon, because he's trying to catch up to Aphrodite and he's getting stuck into a battle with cars that should be 20 seconds behind him. Pantry Star now up into P3. His next target will be Andre. Wants to clear the AlphaTauri as quickly but as safely as he can. Remember, get too aggressive, try and go for the first gap you see. You might lose the wing and then it's all over. But there's no way past that time around. Pantry Star looking for a way past on Andre. Things getting really close here. Camera angle changes at an unfortunate time, and I thought things were getting too close. And on the exit of the corner, we were anticipating 3 cars coming out of that corner. Only 2 cars came out and a Red Bull in the background. So that is Mr. Rem. Disappointed with that. He was the top running Red Bull. The other Red Bull all the way down in P14 and last place. Aphrodite, 21 seconds is the gap. Andre P3, Louis P4. But remember, Andre and Louis 3 and 4, they still have to pit, and there's a lot of cars behind them very close together. And I just feel the longer they stay out there, the more they're going to fall down that field. Louis now still defending for all he's worth. Eventually lets it go. Aston Martin of Venom up into P4. Now the only man left yet to pit in that top 4 is Andre. Louis has fallen out of the top 5. I think he's just waited a bit too long on those tyres. And unfortunately for him, the order is not that spread out behind him, which means he could come back very far down the order for his liking. Andre, 17 laps on the mediums. Wonder if he knows he's allowed to change tyres. Having an absolute marathon. I think the tactic is to take those mediums as long as he possibly can. Let's see, he comes into the pits. I predict he's going to put on a set of softs and try to finish this race on a set of softs. It's going to be really quick, but it's going to be worth the gap. Is he going to be able to catch up and still get a decent result out of this race? Going to have a lot of work to do. We'll see what that gap is when he does emerge back onto the track. Where is Andre? Here we go. He's come into a battle straight away with a horse, and it seems like he's going to be able to defend it. As he does, he's going to hold on to P8. So he's come out in P8. He's 8 seconds adrift from his next opponent. So it's going to take a lot of work. Does have the soft compound. He's going to be extremely quick. But is he going to be quick enough to close that gap? Or did he simply waste too much time driving around on the medium? The medium that was far past its best before date. Mercedes, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin are your top 3. Williams P4. Then the second Alfa Romeo, so both Alfa Romeos in the top 5. Good result for them so far. This is that second one. Harsh Cartoon on the back of Top Gun. We've seen a lot of Top Gun in this race. Remember, he was the only driver to start on the soft tyre. So one of the drivers to try something different. When you're going up against electric pace like we've seen this evening, sometimes you need to try and do something different, because the usual is not going to be enough. So far, a really straightforward race. So if you were rolling the dice and hoping for something special, it hasn't happened yet. And the other thing we have not mentioned, because I don't like talking about safety cars, but we have to mention it. We don't get any safety cars. I know a few drivers in the field like to underfuel, and if you don't get that safety car, well, this is about the time you're going to start to panic, and you're going to start to think of how to save a bit of fuel. Last thing you want to do is, when you're racing, doing everything you can to stay with the driver in front, and all of a sudden you realize, I need to lift and coast. No real battles in the field, everybody pretty spread out by a couple of seconds here and there. This is the closest one, Harsh Cartoon versus Top Gun, 0.6 of a second. Where else do we have a battle? We looked around on circuit, see everybody just pretty spread out. That's what happens. A lot of times the spectators on the channel, they don't like the safety cars, the number of safety cars. I guess the number is a bit exaggerated, but a lot of people just don't like the safety car from a racing perspective. But this is what it does. It opens up the field, and by the end of the race, well, there's not that many battles on track. You've just got a bunch of drivers trying to keep their concentration and getting the car to the end. What that constant safety car does, or a race with multiple safety cars, is it just ensures that those gaps aren't able to form. Yes, there's a caution on my screen, I know. Harsh Cartoon in P5, still very, very close to Top Gun. He's the only car we have on track within DRS. That's a lie, we have another one. I said it was going to be Divan, but he's just pulled into the pits. So that timing sheet will change quickly. The Alfa Romeo and the Williams trading places, briefly going side by side, with the Aston Martin up into P4. And for the time being, Alfa Romeo 2 cars in the top 4. It's nowhere near Venom though, 8 seconds the gap. And the Alfa Romeo looks very capable of coming back at him, so that position far from confirmed. Like we say, everyone else on track looking pretty comfortable. And if you're able to maintain your pace consistently, then you just need to bring this car home. Speaking of mistakes, Venom, man in P2, has just picked up a penalty. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't have a look at it. I think it is a 3-second penalty. So if he intends to hold on to P2, which looked pretty comfortable, he's now going to have to do a lot of work, because instead of Pantry Star falling behind him, Pantry Star is reeling him in. And finally, we have a DRS battle to watch in this race. Pantry Star versus Venom, and they're fighting for P2. There's not much to say about P1. It's going to be a race for P2. Get a view from the Alfa Romeo. I just wish the new game had come out. I almost called it a Selber. Very confusing. Pantry Star. The Alfa Romeo is 3 and 4, separated by 8 seconds. Venom in P2. Afrodox. Well, that's the sort of thing you can do when you have a ridiculous gap at the end of the race. You wouldn't be able to do stuff like this if we had safety cars. Afrodox, with an insane gap, decides, I'm going to take the fastest lap. Goes into the pits, puts on a brand new set of softs with just 5 laps to go. He's really going to be able to lean into those tyres, really just abuse those tyres, doesn't need to worry about any tyre management. They will very easily go to the end of the race. And he's just going to put in a few belters and try and take fastest lap, just to rub salt into the wounds for the rest of the field. Not only did he dominate, he decided to have a bit of a laugh at the end. Another man within DRS, but barely within DRS, just holding on with his fingertips. Rhino doing everything he can to stay with the Ferrari ahead of him. Just 9/10 of a second is the gap. So he does have DRS for now. Does have the soft tyre. Doing everything he can. He's in P10, so he is getting a point for this race. But he'd love to take home more than one. And he sees the opportunity in the form of a scarlet red Ferrari just up the road from him. It's a lot more difficult when you can't see your opponent up the road. But once you can see them, even if you can just see them over the horizon, it almost feels like you start to find some pace. Nothing to speak of at the front. It's a Max Verstappen affair. Divan at the rear of the field. Remember, he was having what we described as a recovery race, and apparently things haven't gone according to plan. He remains in P14, then Gotzi 13 in the second Red Bull, the Skies P12, and Shums, the only McLaren here tonight. Those are the 4 cars out of the point: Shums, the Skies, Gotzi and Divan. Fastest lap of the race, predictably, to Afrodox 118.7. What a lap time. Some drivers would have been happy with that in qualifying. Afrodox leads the way, and now he's just having a little bit of fun with it. Venom P2. Now Pantry Star is just behind him. It's going to be interesting. How does Pantry Star play this out? He could obviously try and pass Venom on track, or he could simply sit behind Venom till the end of the race, let his DRS tow him around, make sure he stays within those 3 seconds, and then steal second place that way without taking any risk on track. A lot of times what happens is the drivers, they know about the penalty, they still want to make the overtake on the circuit. Just feels that much better. Go up and down the field looking for a battle. We find one here. It's a battle for P12. Gotzi versus the Skies. Skies up the inside and contact. Seems like the Alpine didn't come away too badly from it, but Gotzi losing a lot of momentum. He's going to have to get going again. We've got a caution on our screens, but luckily we're in the safe zone. Lap 27 of 29. No safety cars can happen at this point. And I'm starting to wonder, oh, they switched off. Not even a virtual. Well done, guys. Started with 14 drivers. Small field. More importantly, we still have 14 drivers. No safety cars, no virtual safety cars, no major incidents. On a circuit like Albert Park, that is impressive. The barriers can get really close here in sections of the track. We have had 1 or 2 incidents, but nothing major enough to cause a retirement. That's rather impressive. Up and down the field, if you see a battle, let me know. I don't know where else to look. This is our only battle. It's a battle for P4. Williams versus Alfa Romeo. That position not decided. Venom very comfortable in P3. Pantry Star very comfortable in P2. And the leader, well, it's ridiculous. He just went in, put on those set of softs. His advantage went down to just 12 seconds after the pit stop. And since then, he's been able to increase that 12-second gap all the way back up to 20 seconds. He's found 8 seconds in the last few laps. Insanity out on track. This is Louis and the second Ferrari. Both Ferraris in the points. Good evening for them. They'd like to be a little bit higher up in the points. But to get both cars in the points is always a good salvage for the evening. Terrible feeling when you walk away from the race, you and your teammate haven't scored. No progression in the Drivers' Championship, no progression in the Team Championship. Just a waste of a night. Mercedes, they just have the 1 car here tonight, but that car has been able to maximize and will take 26 points with that fastest lap. Leader has started the final lap. Pantry Star in P2 is about to start that final lap. That's the gap between the drivers, 23 seconds. Venom a further 4 seconds back in P3. Then Harsh Cartoon, P4, still under pressure from Top Gun. Skull P6. Then Andre, Mr. M, Louis and Rhino in the final points positions, and it doesn't look like anyone there outside the points is going to be able to do anything miraculous at this stage. I think we'll see this top 10 remain as this top 10. This race now coming to an end. Your leader in Sector 3. Could now start lapping those cars. Yes, he does. He's going to lap cars on the start finish line. Blue flags, checkered flags, everything you can down the straight. Afrodox wins the race. Pantry Star in P2. He's 25 seconds down the road, so we'll wait a little. We'll see Pantry Star on his own. Venom P3 also pretty much on his own. Harsh Cartoon being pushed to the end by Top Gun, but I think it's going to be Harsh Cartoon over the line. P4, Top Gun P5. Then there's another bit of a gap. We wait for Skull. There he is. He's coming over the line all by himself. Andre P7. Lots of gaps in the field, as you can see. What a race it was. Pretty standard race. Nothing dramatic. No safety cars. No virtuals. No weather. And that is what happens when you take all of those elements out of a race. You get a pretty straightforward race, and the men that have the quickest race pace naturally stretch away, and eventually you don't know what to commentate on. Skull, let me know why did you think this was a bad race? I think it's been a while since I've seen that in the comment section. I've even seen terrible lobbies that people end up laughing at. That's the first time I've heard somebody say this was a bad race. So Venom gets driver of the day. Very impressive for him. Remember, he was at the bottom of qualifying. We now await those official results. Remember, there were a few penalties thrown around. So there we go, official results. Afrodox taking the victory and the fastest lap. So he's going to take 26 points home tonight. Pantry Star P2. Venom P3, then Harsh Cartoon doing everything he can and held on to that P4. Top Gun P5. It's followed by Skull, Mr. Rem, Louis, Andre and Rhino taking home the final point. No points on the night, but finishing the race, Chumps P11, Glotzy P12, Disguise 13 and Divan making up the field. We started with 14 drivers. It was a small field, but we have finished with 14 drivers. Fantastic racing from Afrodox, just really showing his pace lap after lap. And that 6/10 that he showed in qualifying as an advantage, well, he just put that sort of dominance into every single lap in the race. Naturally disappeared, had the cheek to come in, put on the soft tyres at the end, steal the fastest lap, which I think he had already. And then to still come out with a 22-second lead. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, for joining us for SKR. We will be back tomorrow for SAFRL Tier 1 and on Wednesday for SAFRL Tier 2. And then of course next week it's time for a sprint round. We'll see you next week when SKR returns on this channel Until then, thank you so much for joining. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps the channel. Share the video far and wide. Do what you can. And until then, cheers.